Welcome to the Economy Magazine. I'm Benjamin Chung Alfares with the news from the world economy. Today as well, we focus on the costs of Israel's latest military operation on the local economy with several reports on the topic. We take a look at the costs of reserves. Security expert Shlomi Adar joins us for a discussion of the costs to small businesses in Israel's south. And we have a report on the effects on tourism to the Holy Land. First, the headlines. Western leaders warned Russian President Vladimir Putin he would face further sanctions unless he ensured investigators full access to the crash site of flight MH17. Britain is pushing for immediate extension of sanctions to Putin's inner circle and wants the EU to impose an arms embargo. Armed separatists stored some 200 bodies in refrigerated train wagons, but other remains lay uncollected under the baking summer heat. Putin pledged Russia's support in bringing the Ukrainian conflict to an end, but the shooting of the passenger flight will likely have a lasting impact on airline security as related to the region.
We have repeatedly called on all warring parties to immediately stop the bloodshed and sit down at the negotiating table. We can confidently say that if June 28 fighting in the eastern Ukraine were not renewed, then this tragedy would not have happened for sure.
Chinese President Xi Jinping and Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro agreed to work together to build a comprehensive strategic association between the two nations. Xi, on the third leg of a Latin American tour to strengthen Beijing's ties with the region, signed bilateral agreements with Caracas on Monday. Caracas has been working on borrowing $4 billion from China, guaranteed by oil sales. Earlier in the trip, China proposed the creation of a $20 billion fund to finance infrastructure projects in Latin America and the Caribbean. Xi also signed $7.5 billion loan deals with Buenos Aires, which faces another default as a debt deadline with holdout investors looms.
China has full confidence in the development of our bilateral ties. We're willing to make efforts, along with Venezuela, to always be friends, to have mutual trust, and to be excellent partners of mutual cooperation to move our relationship ahead constantly.
Russian steel manufacturer OAO Severstal has sold its U.S. subsidiaries to two American firms for a combined $2.34 billion. The company's Severstal Columbus division will be sold to Indiana-based Steel Dynamics and its Severstal Dearborn unit to Ohio's AK Steel Corporation. The deal comes amid continued instability in Russia's economy following several rounds of U.S. and European sanctions. Though tougher sanctions are likely after Malaysia's airline Flight 17 was shut down, Severstal isn't likely to be targeted. A jury in Florida ordered the second largest tobacco company in the U.S. to pay $23.6 billion in punitive damages to the widow of a longtime smoker. Cynthia Robinson individually sued Reynolds, the makers of Camel cigarettes, in 2008 to stop tobacco companies targeting children with their advertising. Her husband had died in 1996, aged 36, after smoking 1 to 3 packs a day for more than 20 years. Robinson's case was one of thousands filed in Florida after the state Supreme Court ruled smokers and their families need only prove addiction and that smoking caused their illness. As the most recent escalation between the IDF and Hamas continues, the costs to the Israeli economy pile up. The costs of Israel's defense are carried by each reserve soldier and their families as well.
Since Operation Protective Edge began more than a week ago, approximately 40,000 Army Reserve soldiers have been drafted. Each of them asked to leave behind their jobs, businesses, and families. Each reserve soldier costs about $175 per day. A single day of 40,000 reserve soldiers costs more than $7 million. And if the number of soldiers goes up to 70,000, the daily costs will reach nearly $10 million per day. This is a number that only reflects the cost of paying reserve soldiers. It does not include the accumulated costs of lost work days, decreased productivity and trade, and much more. These soldiers are freelancers, business owners, employees, and executives. They are forced to endure, knowing that while they fight, life goes on. While they serve, the state is not providing protection against debt collectors, bounced checks, or even parking tickets and other fines. Still, in previous operations, the government enacted special emergency regulations, and the Knesset will discuss similar steps in a special committee meeting next week. But how can it be that in a country so reliant on reserve soldiers, there is no law to protect and assist them? Such a law does exist. It's called the Law of Extensions, and it enables active reserve soldiers to delay various financial commitments up to a month after their emergency service ends. But it requires the government to declare national emergency status, which is considered to be very costly. The last time it was activated was during the Yom Kippur War in 1973 and to some limited extent after the Second Lebanon War, but only following immense public pressure. Meanwhile, soldiers and their families are left to fend for themselves in many cases. Businesses are already reporting an average employee absentee rate of nearly 28% in the center and southern regions of the country. 2009's Operation Cast Lead, which appears to be similar in scope, lasted 22 days. Its direct costs added up to over $1 billion, because the current operations costs also include extensive and expensive use of the US-backed Iron Dome system, which costs hundreds of millions of dollars to build and tens of thousands for each launch. It will probably cost more. After the fire eventually ceases, the government will be left to deal with the bill, a bill each reserve soldier and their families already feel.
We're joined now by Shlomi Adar from the Adar Security Advising Security Company. Mr. Adar, thanks for joining us.
Thank you.
So now that we have seen military operations just about every 2 years, what should small businesses do to cover themselves?
First of all, they have to know that the obligo budget, they have to consider of all the budget of their business. So they have to knowledge all the supplies that they have a limit budget during this period of time. They have to call to the customer to know what special needs they need during a military event now. They have to understand, they have to inform the banks and the authority that they have a limit of cash during this time. And after that, they have to try to early payment from the customer, to ask the customer if they can send early time all the payment that's supposed to be to the business. And
it's quite a list. I mean, like, if you were to put it in terms of a 10 commandments, so to speak, for small businesses during wartime, what would you say those 10 commandments are?
First of all, you have to understand. You have to choose what mission you have to run in your business during this time. First, you have to know what is your budget during the period. Third one, you have to inform all the supplies that
all the suppliers
that you will have a delay with the payment. You have to take your employees and put them on multitask jobs, that not only one jobs. They have to deal with few jobs in your business, and you have to inform your also your banks and authority that maybe you will delay all the payment, and you have to know maybe you have an emergency crisis that you have to deal with a manual format that all the communication system will shut down during this is the major issue that you have to do. And you also can go to the economic ministry of government. You have any substitution of you can ask for help, finance help from the ministry, and you have help from the banks during this period of time.
Okay, well, Shlomi Adar, emergency crisis specialist, thank you so very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Thank you. The tourism industry in Israel contributes slightly more than 7% of the country's gross domestic product. And while the Holy Land has its own appeal for tourists from around the world, it is nonetheless hard to convince people to come while the country is under attack. i24 News editor Amir Ben David has the story.
In the quiet summer days, Israel tempts tourists with its famous magical blend, the unique combination of tradition and innovation, of East and West, a bridge between Europe, Asia and Africa, with pulsating urban life and a vibrant cultural scene. But this summer is all but quiet in the Middle East. Until recently, tourism experts observed an increase of about 10% in the number of tourists to Israel. They expected 2014 to break the all-time record reached in 2013 of 3.5 million tourists. Operation Protective Edge changed everything. This past weekend, hotels in Tel Aviv and Jerusalem were at 75% of the average occupancy, in a season where they are usually packed full, and flights to Israel have many empty seats, the result of tourists canceling their booking at the last minute. For Amir Alevi, Director General in the Ministry of Tourism, this is no small headache. Mr. Alevi, let's say I'm a tourist that decided to come to Israel this summer, and now I see all these horrible images in the international media. Why should I come? Convince me.
Now in Israel we have more than 100,000 tourism, most of them in the hotels, in the beaches, in the restaurants. They feel safety. We hope that this operation will be short as much as we can, and we can be back on the track as soon as possible.
The tourists that were already here when the recent round of violence started found themselves in the bizarre situation of running for shelter and are trying to stay calm.
I'm not scared, I'm still here. I'm not cutting short my vacation. I went on a Segway tour today to Jaffa Port, and I'm sitting on a beach.
I checked in, and straight away they told me to, you can't go to your bed, you can't even go to the room, go straight to the bunker. And then I went to the bunker, and I came out 5 minutes later, and there was debris from the explosion lying on the ground, so I took a picture of it.
The main obstacle facing the tourist industry is the accepted truth that it takes as long as 6 months to rehabilitate the confidence of tourists after a period of unrest. This is one of the reasons the Israeli Ministry of Tourism decided not to cancel a new campaign for that runs in the Eurosport channel during the Tour de France.
Ride the vibe of Tel Aviv. Dance on the water of the Sea of Galilee. Explore the old city of Jerusalem.
We have a long-term relationship with the Tour de France and the Eurosport, and we think that, Israel is the best place for sport, and, in the world we have the perfect weather for running, for the marathon, for the swimming in the Mediterranean.
Israel wants its message to the European tourists to be clear. At the end of this round of regional violence, the attractions will still be waiting for you.
And now for a discussion of different articles collected for you in Media Watch, and we stay on the same note regarding the situation in Israel. I'm joined by Karen Kirsch. Karen, thanks for joining us.
Hi, Benjamin. How are you?
Good. So I understand we have a story from The Marker regarding the tunnels.
Yes, we do. They've actually tried to answer the question I think many of us are asking. We've invented the Iron Dome. It's working quite well.
Right.
How come there's no solution for the tunnels? It's something that has been bothering security agencies for at least 2 decades. How come there's no solution for that?
Right.
So they tracked back people who were involved in them trying to make solutions and try to answer this, and it's actually a sort of, a bureaucratic story. They've started to try and find solutions in early as the 90s, and started mapping tunnels and trying to find solutions for that, and there was actually a solution of a seismic fence that you can put in the ground that was offered to the Ministry of Defense in around 2000, but the Ministry of Defense didn't want to take that solution, and they... Was
it too costly? Did they say why they didn't want to take that?
They wanted something that sounded a little bit more technological.
Okay.
And then they leased it out, and 3 companies ran for this tenure, and they chose the less known one, a company called Hadass.
Okay.
That researched and tried to present solutions for almost a decade,
right,
costing millions of dollars. And for solutions that are not quite sure, they didn't like the... Of course, it depends. It's going into the story a little bit too much, but the company is accusing the Ministry of Defense. The Ministry of Defense is accusing the company. And solution,
right,
we don't have one yet. Right now, it's actually what everybody's suggesting is like in the Iron Dome, where there was like a collective project to try and solve the problem, maybe we should have the same one for solving the
collective solution to it in the sense that
like a collective effort, bringing the brains and the money and the involvement of the defense and bringing it all under one dome and perhaps bringing a solution to life.
Well, Karen Kirsch, I hope to hear more about this collective solution in future Media Watches. Thanks for joining us again, and see you again. Join us again, also you, the viewership. Thanks for joining us today. I'm Benjamin Changon Fares. Continue watching us. We'll be here again tomorrow.